It's not the only chat that got more volatile after WoW enters the picture. I think it's not just WoW, it's MMORPGs in general, because you have to remember that when you start to appeal to any MMORPG crowd, you are appealing to a crowd of people who are online a lot, because the average MMO player is also not watching a Twitch stream about their MMORPG. The average MMO player is just turning up and playing the game. That's what they're doing. As soon as you get onto Twitch, you've already kind of reduced it down to the hardcore. So when you start to make any content that appeals to MMORPG players who are also engaging in online communities beyond the game, that is when you have almost filtered it to the more extreme people. The self-selection bias. It really is. Yeah, the self-selection bias is very important. So you're appealing to a group of gamers who spend more than the average person online. Anonymous, tribalistic, tribal, emotionally charged. All these words and more. Who are more insistent that you play their game wrong, MMO players or Factorio players? I think they're probably both about as insistent as each other, but they would go about it different ways. MMORPG players would work out the perfect rotation of insults to send me to do the most damage, and Factorio players would work out how to automate that. What's wrong with people like me who like MMORPGs but can't ever find the right one? You're looking for the MMORPG to fill a hole in your life that it's not going to fill. You're hoping that it's going to be a specific play experience that gives you the content or the quality of the content that you are looking for, when actually the answer, as horrible as it's going to sound, is any MMORPG could fill it, provided you're playing it with the right people. It doesn't matter how good the game is, because MMORPGs themselves are inherently badly designed games. They're designed around being grindy, they're designed around repetitive content, they're designed around low drop rates of anything to keep you coming back. If they were good games, they would be finishable in less than 100 hours, whereas most people say you can't even start an MMO within 100 hours. The value is in what you can get socially within those 100 hours. It's self-introspection. The reason you're hopping from MMO to MMO is not because you're trying to find a mechanical system that's going to sate you, but a social system that engage with those mechanics. Sorry. It's the people that you want. It's not the game. It's the experience with those people that you want. Day 8 of saying hello in chat. Hello, Terminally Online. You never play MMOs for other players. You actively avoid them. Okay, frogs. Are you happy with the games that you play? If someone gave you an exact copy of an MMORPG, but with 0 players and every single player replaced with a bot, would it still have as much value to you to play it? Because I believe that a lot of people that play MMORPGs solely still value the social interaction that they are viewed with. There is something nice about being alone in a crowd. It is the existence of the crowd that matters. Playing solo in a living world can still have value. Isn't hardcore Iron Man RuneScape that? Absolutely. You can play alone together. A lot of people do. Moondog, you play MMOs to make friends. That's nothing sad about that at all, man. That's what they're designed for. You're engaging with the game in the way it was designed to be engaged with. It's not a living world if you're playing solo. Of course it is. It's absolutely a living world if you're playing solo. You're just not engaging with every part of it. You can play solo and be around and see the world be alive around you. The same way that you can walk through a city or walk through a park on your own. The city is still alive, the park is still alive. You can value the vibe that everyone else is bringing to it. I think human beings bring a vibe. When we spoke about vibes earlier, this is kind of where it goes to. The idea that you can enjoy the overall essence of a thing without feeling the desire to be involved in every aspect of the essence. Vibe maxing. Oh, absolutely. Verdano, I've spoken about this many, many, many times. People often forget that back when MMORPGs were novel, with things like EverQuest, Meridian 59, Ultima Online, the value was not necessarily in the gameplay. The value was in the social interaction that the gameplay facilitated. There was a huge amount of downtime in EverQuest when you would sit and wait for your mana to refill. There was a huge amount of downtime in EverQuest when you'd killed a roaming boss and was sitting waiting for it to respawn. But that downtime was not nothing. That downtime was social. That downtime was time to talk to your friends, time to talk to the people in your group, time to talk to your mates. There was a lot of stuff that you could do with that downtime. That was the social moment. Remember that some people used to log into MMORPGs literally just to talk to people. And by logging in just to talk to people, you would get the social interaction from it. They are digital third spaces. Unfortunately now, because the talking to people is no longer novel, people don't log in order to do that. They log in order to play the game, which means the game has had to change itself from being a social facilitator into being a good video game within itself. And there we hit this paradox. Sometimes good game design demands more of your attention, which means you have to take the attention away from what it was previously being given to, which was socializing. Which means older MMORPGs demanded less of your attention because more of the attention was spent doing social stuff, while modern MMORPGs demand more of your attention because they want to try and be good, complicated games in their own right, and in demanding more of your attention, they cannot give you as much downtime to do social stuff because doing social stuff in them is no longer novel. We are not impressed by being told we can talk to 100 people from 100 different countries in real time when we can just do that on Discord. We can just go and watch YouTube. We can go and interact with Twitch. What made MMORPGs special was the social aspect of them. And by removing the social aspect and focusing on the gameplay, you don't have a special game anymore. You just have an RPG that we're all playing through together, which is not wrong or bad, but we do at least need to acknowledge that we have lost what made the genre unique, which was the social aspect. Many years ago, going into a dungeon was not just about completing the dungeon. It was about experiencing the dungeon. And people talk about, this is a great thing you just brought up there, Fern, server-locked gameplay. If you couldn't jump through servers, if you were on one server, then your social standing mattered as much as your skill. You became someone that was known. If you were an excellent player, but you were horrible to run with, people would avoid running with you out of purpose. If you were exceptionally fun to run with, but not that good as a player, people would probably spend time helping you get better, because you became known within your little culture, within your society. Remember how I've said that human beings aren't meant to live in such massive societies. If you have a server that could only hold 1,000 people and you know all 1,000 people, you have a community. If you have a server that can hold 1 million people, but you never get to know them, you never talk to them, you never see them, you may have more people around, but you definitely do not have a community. You just have a lot of people. The same way that you can live in a house with 4 or 5 other people and you will get to know them. You can live in a city with 4,000 or 5,000 other people and you will not get to know all of them. You have to ask yourself what's more important to you personally. So saying that you play an MMO to make friends is not silly at all. If anything, it was the way that they were meant to be played. The problem with this philosophy is that people that are trying to make MMOs now think that what made them special years ago is still what the modern player base are going to value and respect. I have spoken to many people who are making an MMORPG, from people who are trying to do it solo in their basement to people who have had hundreds of millions in funding. And all of them tell me that the thing they want to focus on is the social aspect. And I've said, okay, but are you trying to give people what they had 20 years ago? Are you trying to recapture and recreate the thing that made you fall in love with the genre? When you have to acknowledge that we live in a completely different world now. Giving people a social-friendly MMORPG is not novel anymore. What do modern players want from an MMO? And the answer cannot just be they want to be able to log in and talk to their mates, because that's been solved for years. You wonder then why social games are still popular, like Phasmophobia and stuff, but that aspect has become less utilized. Mosley, so those games, I don't think this is a derogatory term, those games are often referred to as friend slop. And I think the reason that they're referred to as those games, and they are social, is they're not long-term. They're short, they're novel, they're fun for a bit, You log in, you enjoy them with your mates, and then you move on. This is very important. Those games are designed to facilitate a social connection between you and your friends. They also do not require a huge amount of investment. Imagine Fall Guys. Fall Guys was a great example of this. When Fall Guys released, if you'd have said to someone, hey man, I play Fall Guys, do you want to come and play it with me? But you've got to play it for 100 hours before we can play together. That's not going to get anywhere near as many people. If you say to someone, hey, there's new games out, it's quite fun, it's designed for friends to play together, you know, it's pretty cheap, time investment's pretty low, download it, play it, have fun, and then, very importantly, move on. These games that appeal to people like Phasmophobia, like Fall Guys, like, I think Valheim was it for a while, sometimes a new game releases, prides itself on the multiplayer component it has, gets played, gets enjoyed, Lethal Company was another one, gets enjoyed, peak, and then people just move on. The thing with MMORPGs is they don't want to just be accessed, enjoyed, and moved on from. They want to take the player base and keep it. They do not want people to move on from it. They want people to be there, to stay there. So when people say to me, oh, but multiplayer gaming and, you know, social connection is still there, people want to play these games, yes, it is, which is why we loop back to the idea. What is an MMORPG providing that these games are not? MMORPGs appeal to people who want long-term progression in one game, and that is absolutely a player base. But the friend slop genre appeals to people who want to download a game, immediately be involved with it in a way that matters with their friends. They want to immediately see all the mechanics that the game has to offer. They don't want to be told, keep playing and you get to the good bit. They want to be given the good bit from the start. And you know what those friend slop games do? Exactly that. You can download a friend slop game and within 1 to 2 hours, immediately be at the good bit with your friends, involved in a way that matters. And once that bit's happened and it resets, you get to do it again. And once you get bored of it, you move on because it's not asked for a huge long-term commitment. And the cool thing is your friends can move on with you. And there's nothing wrong with friend slop games. People have a good time with them. When I say friend slop, I don't mean low quality. I mean the thing that this game does is exactly what it says on the tin, which is we're going to give you a way to play with your friends right now in a low commitment, high return video game experience that straight away gives you what you want. It's instant gratification for that. Slop feels like a derogatory term. It brings judgment. It does. It absolutely does. The term slop feels derogatory. Friend facilitating, I would say, is a good way for it. Friend facilitating. Friend focused. And this is what I kind of push back at when people say, hey, I'm going to make an MMORPG. It's going to be just the way things were. It's going to be a social aspect game. You're going to have to actually talk to each other. I'm like, okay, why? Do you believe that's a thing that the gaming landscape doesn't have right now? The gaming landscape has loads of games that people can download and play straight away and have fun with it. And I think what a lot of people that are making MMORPGs think is that the connection is more valuable if somebody has invested 100 hours into it. And they might have a point. They might actually have a very real point that the connection would be more valuable if people had invested hundreds of hours into it. But are people going to do that? That's the question. Do you believe that you are providing something that modern gamers want? And I don't want modern gamers to be taken as a derogatory term. I don't want people to be sat there thinking, oh, modern gamers only play, crap games. No. Modern gamers play more games. Someone said to me once, if only there was a game like EverQuest that released right now. And I replied, what about EverQuest? That's still online. In fact, it's had its 31st expansion. It's still going, it's still being updated, it's still there, you can still play it. And they said, oh, well, it's not the same. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, people aren't playing it. I'm like, okay, so actually you don't want a game like EverQuest, you want a game that people are playing. That's the difference. The reason people have great memories of EverQuest is not because EverQuest was an amazing game. It's because EverQuest was an amazing social experience for them. And I've had conversations with these kind of people and I've said, when do you have the most fun in an MMO? And they often say, when it's new. People have a great time at the start of the game. I don't know if you think about the same thing, but I do too. When a game launches, when a new server kicks off, when everyone's playing together, beautiful. Lovely moment. Start of new world, gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Can't even deny it. Start a new world, fantastic. All there, all playing together, all having a good time. You say you're hungry for a new MMO. I don't think you are. I think you're hungry for the experience that a new MMORPG brings. You could have that experience in any MMO if everyone agreed to do it at the same time. That's the thing. If everyone agreed to do it, it would be fine. You could have the new player, social, connected, unsure what's going on experience in almost any MMO if everyone agreed to play that game at the same time. And I think that's what people want from it. They want everyone together. Games like Helldivers 2. Helldivers 2 released. It was a friend facilitator social game. You got to the good bit really quickly. Everyone had a good time. People moved on from it. Finding those people is challenging. It is. But ironically, you know how we don't find those people? By making more MMORPGs. Because what we're doing then is dividing a small player base even further. People ask why fresh start servers in MMOs work so well. It's because you take the people that already like the gameplay of that MMO and give them the social experience back. You say, hey, we're going to pick a time, we're all going to start again. Why do you think it works so well with games like Path of Exile 2 with their seasons? Because that is a return moment for everyone. What makes MMOs successful in the West versus East is kind of different too. MMO scene is a lot bigger in Asia and Southeast Asia. I don't particularly know too much about the scene over there. I know that they generally tend to focus on the flashy pay-to-win versions of the games, which is fine if that's what they want. It's a different society, different culture. The grind from 0 to 100 is attractive. Yeah, it is for a lot of people. Here's one thing that I have noticed that I think is very important that people don't think about. Whenever you design anything, you need to design the onboarding moment. And the onboarding moment is important because it is a social experience that lots of people have together. People want... I mean, Kill, you said hot take, you don't like seasons and having start fresh. Okay, that's fine. You know what? I'm getting on board with that. A lot of games have what we call quit moments. Quit moments are where you just, stop playing the game. But games don't often think about return moments. And if you have a return moment... Let me explain this in terms of Command & Conquer. Okay. Let me try and explain this in a way that I think people will get. In order to enhance a social experience that you have within the game, you need to hit a critical mass of players at the same time that will enhance the systems that the game has and allow people to actually communicate with a broad variety of people. Think about it like this. Imagine playing Command & Conquer, which is a real-time strategy game, and you have 1,000 troops to storm the enemy base with. If you send those troops one at a time at the enemy base, even though you will eventually have sent 1,000, none of them will succeed. They will get gunned down by the machine guns on the outside of the enemy base, because you haven't attacked with a critical mass all in one go. However, if you send all 1,000 at the same time, you will overwhelm the enemy's defenses and you will succeed. Bringing people into a new MMORPG is a similar type of process. If you simply have one person join, look around the game and think, this is dead, and then leave, the next person will join, look around the game and think, this is dead, and then they will leave. Every person will do that, and every person will think that the game is dead. But if everyone joined at the same time, then they would look around and say, oh my God, this game is fantastic, this game is alive, this is what I want, I'm going to talk to people, I'm going to have the social experience that I like. And therefore, it succeeds. You haven't actually added or removed any players. All you've done is orchestrated all of them being added at the same time. And that's a really important thing with MMORPGs that other games that we tend to refer to as friend-focused or friend slop are really good at doing. These games that release are fun for a few months and then people move on from are excellent at adding everyone at the same time. Games that simply never reset are bad at bringing in huge influx of people at the same time. One of the reasons the Crucible event for Albion Online right now has been fun is because it's been an event designed to bring a load of people into the game at the same time. That was kind of the point. That was one of the purposes that it was trying to achieve. That was one of its goals. So one of the reasons that I see people complain about MMORPGs is they feel like the worlds are dying. I'm like, okay. In that case, what we really need is everyone on board at the same time. And if you look at the modern updates, that has sometimes been detrimental to that goal. By allowing all of the servers to connect together, you're bringing more people together at the same time, but you're making them not communicate with each other. By dividing down the dungeons, you're allowing people to team up straight away, but again, they're not communicating with each other. You're not feeling that chat, which means we have these two dividing things pulling either side. We need everyone to be together so it's social, but then we also have, but we're going to remove the need to be social in order to get everyone together. Which means you have this paradox of you have a game genre that is designed about social connection, but needs a critical mass of players. And the easiest way to achieve the critical mass of players is to remove the need for social interaction. So you have a lot of people wanting to be social who aren't, or you have a few people who want to be social who can't. That's the problem. It's a four-dimensional problem. And this is what Verdano, that's exactly what we were talking about. Games that are like friend slop. And again, I'm not saying it in a derogatory way. Games like Fall Guys, games like Fall Flat, games like Among Us. They hit the scene, become super impressive, everyone plays them, and then everyone moves on. Those games are incredible at short-term success, but what they can't do is manage long-term communities. You need to find a balance of both. You need the game to launch with a critical mass of players. Because if it doesn't launch with a critical mass of players, what you risk happening is you risk being told straight away, dead game. If a new MMORPG launches and it only has like 50 players on day one, you know what's going to happen? That's going to get screenshotted, it's going to get shared around Reddit, there's going to be YouTube videos made about it, people are going to say dead game, and then nobody else is going to join because they don't want to join a failed project. Even though it may have been 50 people as a test realm and 1 million people may have wanted to join the game, suddenly those 1 million people are thinking, oh, now I'm not going to bother. The launch day of a game matters so much because it sets the expectation for how many other people are going to want to join. And you may be one of those people that thinks, well, I'm not going to let the success or the failure of an early game tell me whether I should or shouldn't join. Congratulations. Well done. You're thinking independently. But can you understand how many people do not? Can you understand how many people will think, I am not going to join because I have seen it's already failed? But at the same time, there's a risk of attracting more players than the game can handle, which causes problems. Absolutely, it's a four-dimensional problem. It's a very, very complicated problem because you want people to join your game so you see that you have a healthy player base. But what you don't want to do is have so many people join the game that the player base becomes antisocial. Because believe it or not, when you have too many people, it loops back around to being antisocial. If you put 10 people in a room, chances are they're all going to end up talking to each other at some point. You put 10 million people in a city, they're not all going to meet each other. In fact, most people will say, I'd rather just be left alone. Corpus, that's a great example. When New World got a big update in 2025, people flocked to it. And as soon as New World announced it was shutting down, people left. Now, why do you think the people left when it was announced it was shutting down? If they were having a good time with the game, they would have stayed there. But people left instead of just staying and enjoying it while it was there. Why? Why is that? People in the chat, why do you think it is? Why do you think people stop playing an MMORPG when it's announced it's going to shut down? Because people suddenly think that the time spent in there is no longer worth it. It feels like wasting time. Kumi, you were going to waste the time anyway. The time is being wasted regardless. You're playing the game no matter what. Why invest time and effort into something that will disappear? Jack, in that case, why do anything? Do you believe that the time and the... I'm not saying you specifically. This might just be you answering the question. Does a video game only have more value if you know it's going to be a long-term commitment? They're considered a long-term investment. People don't want to do long-term investments and something that might die. I understand. I, to a degree, actually agree. But this means that maybe people didn't enjoy the gameplay, people enjoyed the society, people enjoyed the social aspect. Everything is ephemeral, everything is temporary. And I think that's one of the reasons that these games like Fall Guys, Human Fall Flat, Phasmophobia, whatever the other one was, Repo something, I think that's one of the reasons these do so well. People approach them knowing they're temporary. People approach them knowing these are not going to be a long-term commitment that I have to give hundreds of hours to and show off. This is going to be a fun game that I play for a bit and then move on from. A lot of people actually enjoy and appreciate the fact that they don't have to treat the game like a long-term commitment. I think MMORPG as a genre brings an expectation with it. And the expectation is, this is going to be with you for the rest of your life. And therefore, focus and energy and effort and commitment you put into it is going to have long-term relevance. It's not just a game. It's an investment. Some people want communities to come to them. Absolutely, that's a good way of putting it. Some people, when they discover that the game they play is about to die or shut down, they say, well, now I don't want to play it anymore, because the gameplay, the moment-to-moment gameplay, was never the focus. It was the long-term commitment. It was the second life. It was the digital third space. I don't say friend slop in a derogatory way. I say it in a way that actually almost sets up expectations. If you set expectations for how long your game is going to last for, your player base kind of understand what they're getting. And they can even value that more. If an MMORPG released with a definite end date, do you think people would play it? I don't think many people would. Because I think the type of gamer, the type of player base that the MMORPG genre is trying to appeal to, want to see their time as an investment. And so if a brand new MMORPG released and its tagline was, this game will shut down in 6 years' time, I think you're going to have a lot of people that look at that and go, well, in that case, I'm not playing it. But what if there was a main MMORPG, like World of Warcraft, like Albion, that said, or like RuneScape, that said, hey, the main game is going to keep going, but we've got this temporary game mode, which is going to be like this. I think a lot of people would join for that, because then you have the Season of Discovery. Then you have the leagues. Then you have the Crucible. Stuff like that. And that, to me, proves that lots of people actually really like the temporary nature of seasonal game modes. They don't last for long, and that is similar. They know that it's ephemeral. And I think that MMORPGs pushing into temporary game modes is actually their way of trying to capture the friend slop gaming crowd by saying, look, this is not going to be around forever, and so play it now while it's here. One thing I try to explain to the MMORPG player base is that while it may be vocal, it is still, in gaming terms, very small. I think the MMORPG player base see content creators like me, and they hang out with societies, and they hang out with groups and cultures that play lots of MMOs, and what they think is that everyone else plays them. The average person doesn't know what an MMORPG is. The average gamer might not know either. You take your absolutely average run-of-the-mill guy that plays games, that's playing the latest FIFA, that's playing the latest Call of Duty, that's jumping on Rocket League with their mates after work, and you say the acronym to them, MMORPG, they might not know what the acronym even means. So how many players play in WoW, retail plus all of the WoW, do I think? It's probably got a couple of million paid subscribers. I wouldn't know beyond that. I wouldn't know the amount of people that log in. They keep those numbers secret. And the reason they keep those numbers secret is because whatever they are, people are going to panic. If they're less than the absolute maximum of all time, people are going to say it's a dying game. If it's more than the maximum of all time, they would be advertising it all the time. Consider this though, guys. When people buy the latest Call of Duty, when people buy the latest FIFA, I know it's not FIFA anymore, but just go with me for the point of example. When people buy these games, do you not think they're purchasing them with the knowledge that the game itself is going to be temporary as soon as the next one comes out? Do you not think that people are purchasing the new Call of Duty, the new FIFA, whatever it's going to be, and thinking, next year I'm going to replace this? I think a lot of people purchase video games with the idea that they're going to play it, complete it, and move on from it. And I think MMORPG players look at games and think, I'm going to play this and never move on from it. And that's what worries me. Because the idea of just never moving on from it means that you are capturing a player base and you're not letting it back out into the wild. The element of buying the new COD every year has to be FOMO, potentially. But they're also buying it because that's where the player base is. We spoke earlier about valuing the social interaction of a player base. If Call of Duty releases, everyone buys it, everyone plays it. If a new Call of Duty releases, part of you is thinking, well, if I want to play with everyone, I've got to buy the new one. So purchasing the new one is actually effectively paying your entrance to the new social club. Can you see it that way? It's a social connection. I don't think that MMORPG games are losing consistent players because they have failed. I think in some ways they're losing consistent players because they've succeeded. Unfortunately, part of that success involves capturing a player base and not allowing it to travel around. If you have one MMORPG game that says big online world, you're going to get all the people that want that playing it. As soon as another game comes out that says, hey, big online world, but different, you're going to get people that want big online world, but different, playing it. You then get another MMO comes out that says, hey, bigger online world, but even more different. But you have to at some point ask, are these new games bringing people in to the genre? Or are they just dividing up people who were already in it even more? Is there a limit to the amount of people currently alive on Earth who want to play an MMORPG style game? I would say, yeah, there probably is a limit. And the more games we release, are we then diluting that player base further and further and further and further between different games? Are we diluting the player base between one game itself? I mean, how many versions of World of Warcraft are there? Let's say that you want to play World of Warcraft. Okay, cool. Are you playing World of Warcraft Retail? Are you playing World of Warcraft Retail Hardcore? Are you playing World of Warcraft Classic Vanilla? Are you playing Classic Vanilla Hardcore? Are you playing Classic Vanilla Progression Server, which is currently up to Mist of Pandaria? Are you playing Classic Vanilla Progression Server Hardcore? Are you playing World of Warcraft Anniversary Edition, which is currently up to the Burning Crusade, which I'm on? Are you playing Anniversary Edition Hardcore? Are you playing if there's no retail hardcore, I'm just saying, are you playing it specifically in a way where when you die, you delete your own character? Are you then playing the Season of Discovery with it? Are you playing a different version? See, already we have taken the amount of people that want to play WoW and divided it amongst 6 or 7 different games. Which means, while I'm sure that the player base of each of these versions is going to be different, it's not going to be a perfect split across everything, you have at least split some of it. People are asking about private servers. Right, the reason I don't talk about private servers is because when I do, I get loads of emails from people offering me money to advertise their private server, and it gets a bit overwhelming, so I don't bother talking about it. How do you know someone plays Turtle WoW? Don't worry, they'll tell you. So when we talk about private servers, we're then dividing the player base down even further. So there might be 10 million people that really want to play World of Warcraft, but each of those people want to play a different version of WoW, which means what then happens is they find the version that they specifically like mechanically, but it might not be the version that is the most active socially, and so then they don't get the experience they want. You have to ask yourself this, and this is a social question. If every single version of a game was simply reverted to one core version, even if it wasn't the exact version that you wanted, would you play it if it had a higher and more active social content count? Let's say that you have an MMORPG with 10 different versions, and each version has 10,000 players. Okay? 10,000 players. That's a decent chunk. Let's say that they conglomerated all together and they made one version, but that version didn't have the maximum of all of them. That version had 60,000 players. That version is still way more popular than any individual version of the game before, and will therefore look more alive. I think there are a lot of people that would then go and play that version. Because what I think the internet has done, and you actually, believe it or not, see this in relationships, by giving people a huge amount of choice, people wait until they find something that is 100% of what they want. Instead of finding something that is 99% of what they want and compromising with the bit that they don't want. If you say there are 2 MMORPG games, choose one of them, then both of those games will actually have remarkably healthy populations, because you kind of got to choose between those. If you say, hey, there are 2 million MMORPG games, pick the one that you think is perfect for you. You might find one that mechanically does exactly what you want it to do, but you won't find a huge amount of people that also choose the same one. The reason that Ultima and EverQuest did so damn well years ago was because there was just less competition for them. You can't make yourself like something. That's true. You can't. But the more choice you offer people, the more analysis paralysis you get, and the more divided people that make those choices become. So at some point, believe it or not, having more choice does not bring more people into a system. It simply divides the people within that system down even more. How many of you have said, hey, I really like this game, but I don't like this, so I'm not going to do it? I've had people message me say, I really, 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 really like old school RuneScape, but I can't dual wield swords, so I'm not going to play it. And I'm thinking, at some point, man, at some point you are looking for a unicorn. And I think you'd be much happier if you literally just said that it's got enough of what I want to be happy, and I'm going to talk with people to fill in the blanks. That's looking for flaws instead of looking for what you'll enjoy. Yeah, it absolutely is. But people like where other people are. People like to be part of a social connection. People want to feel like they are part of that. It's been a long time since I've played an MMO. I was lost until I remembered that you are the MMO guy. Does MMO with satisfying combat and good endgame exist today? I want to try a new world, and I heard the news. Granddaddy, you're a perfect example of what we've been talking about. You wanted to play a game, but now you're not going to play it because it's going to shut down. So, you want an MMORPG that lasts long-term and will stay there long-term. There's loads. There's loads of games with good combat. There's loads of games with good endgame. What kind of combat do you want? What kind of endgame do you want? Any MMO with satisfying combat and good endgame content. Do you want action combat or do you want tab target combat? Because they're different. Do you want fantasy or do you want sci-fi? Do you want massive, huge battles or do you want individual versus against the bosses? Do you want stuff that you can change around quickly or do you want stuff that you commit to for a long time? There's loads of stuff. I mean, there's Guild Wars 2 if you want stuff that has a huge amount of open world variety. There's Guild Wars 1 if you want more of the classic RPG style aspect. Lord of the Rings Online if you want a much more niche but also remarkably friendly community. Dungeons and Dragons Online if you want a massive amount of build variety. If you want the answers that everyone is going to give you forever, then the answer is going to be World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy XIV, Old School RuneScape, Guild Wars 2, and Elder Scrolls Online. That's going to be the answers that you get now. It's going to be the answers that you get in the next 10 years' time. Rift is still going if you want to go and do that. There are loads of MMORPGs still going. Pick one, play it, meet people that play it. But here is the truth. If you pick an MMORPG, play it on your own and have a bad, boring time, you won't like it. If you pick an MMO, meet people in it, bring friends in, and have a good social time, you will enjoy it. The mechanics of the game are actually secondary to the experience you have within the game. Is there an MMO that commits to the class fantasy like WoW, but other than WoW? Runes of Magic. MMORPGs are great at letting you and your mates have a good time. MMORPGs are just really, really time-intensive friend slop. They are not well-designed RPGs. They are excellent social facilitators. It has been a long time since they've been well-designed RPGs. They let you and your mates have a good time. They are Fall Guys. They are Among Us. They are whatever that repo thing was. They are Phasmophobia with RPG mechanics attached to them. You will find one that you like because you like the people within it. Oh, Tree of Savior, the art in that game was incredible. Stunningly good-looking game. Any tips for anti-socials trying to break out of the solo bubble using MMOs? Just talk to people. Just message people. Just join a community. Just chat. Find somebody from the Discord that we have to go and try the game with. Unfortunately, the tip is put yourself into a situation that you're clearly uncomfortable with. There's social networks with dedicated themes. EverQuest was just the world's prettiest chat room. That's what it was. Warframe is fun. Warframe is really good fun. I enjoy that. MMORPGs are massive open digital virtual worlds. How you choose to live in that world will dictate what that world is able to give you. If you choose to live in that world by simply just being on your own, then it's going to give you whatever any other world could give you by just being on your own. This stream itself is a society. It's a community of people that like MMORPG streams or like the retro games that I play that want to be able to hang out together. Joining a casual beef bowl, great idea. Joining a casual guild is a really good way of doing it. No pressure, just chill out, relax. Join a dad guild. Join a dad guild. All the MMOs are bad in their own magical, special way. And I think one of the problems is that people are looking for a mechanical game that will sate their social needs as well. You can have a game that is perfect mechanically, but very few other people play. You can have a game that loads of other people play that you don't enjoy mechanically. Or you can find the middle of both. And to me, that is sometimes the healthiest way to do it. Mechanically, I used to enjoy Neverwinter. Neverwinter Online back when it was anything before Module 16, because that was when they changed how the classes worked substantially. If I could go back and play that again, would I? Absolutely. Would people come with me? Don't know. Probably, because people want to play the game with me, but I would do that. Would I go back and play classic Guild Wars? I might find time for Guild Wars Reforged at some point. How's the gathering? You know what? It's pretty magical. What miniatures will I be painting this week? I am moving house, so pretty much all of my stuff is packed up in boxes. I've just got a massive, huge amount of stack of boxes behind me. But we also have to say what was great about old games for us. Sometimes art, be it video games, movies, bands are a big one for this, music. Sometimes they just find us at certain parts in our life and become exactly what we need for that moment. Have any of you ever experienced that? Have any of you ever discovered a relatively... Sometimes it's not even a big band, not even a big film. Sometimes a piece of artwork comes to you at the right time in your life. A game, a movie, a theatre show, a book, anything. And it's just exactly what you need right then and there. And it becomes a part of you. You latch onto it. Some people that are going through, tough times at school will find a band that they resonate with. People that are going through tough times at work will find a TV show that they really get into. Some people that are going through, a lonely time in life will find a book series that they just really get. Sometimes it's obscure. Sometimes it's an online community. Inju, this Twitch stream is a great example of that. Sometimes that just hits at the right time. And sometimes you end up associating good things with bad things or bad things with good things. And sometimes you end up saying, hey, this thing saved my life because it ended up being the distraction I needed during that time. I think a lot of people that yearn for MMORPGs the way they were are often yearning for that feeling again. Now, I'm not saying that nostalgia and good game design doesn't have a place. It absolutely does. But I also truly believe that people sometimes forget how important a vibe is. That's a large part about why we love the media we love. And when people say, hey, I wish I had a new MMORPG, sometimes they're trying to recapture that feeling. Sometimes you'll find a video game that you just bloody love. For me, it was Jade Cocoon 2. Not good games, but I like them. Sometimes you'll find an old PlayStation 1 game that you just really vibe with. Sometimes you'll just find a band that are just singing in a way that you get. Shammy, you're forever searching for a new tabula rasa. Chubster, Jade Cocoon 2 was indeed fantastic. The combat system that had, where you rotated that wheel and you put your creatures on the specific places. God, that was such a well-made game. I've got an entire video on Jade Cocoon 1 on the Was It Any Good series, where I replayed through that. And you know what? Jade Cocoon 1 was good, actually. I really enjoyed the plot that I had going on. 2 was different. 2 was basically a battle game. It was a less successful Pokemon. Some people find, classic real-time strategy games. Some people find all that for them. But I think sometimes when I'm talking to people about games, I have to ask them, are you trying to find a game or are you trying to recapture an experience? Do I know what's next on the Was It Good series? As soon as I can finish this whole house move, which has taken way longer than it was meant to, it'll probably be Was It Good Icewind Dale. Icewind Dale was an Infinity Engine game in the same style as Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. So this is what I try and really push. For some people, it's Dungeons and Dragons. It does indeed take a lot of energy to constantly find new and exciting experiences. Have any of you, I know I've done this, and this is a really good point. Have any of you ever downloaded a video game or started playing a video game and within like 5 to 10 minutes instantly thought, this is way too complicated for me, and just turned it off? Or this has got too many systems, this has got too many things. But no, I know I've done that. I absolutely know I've done that. I've downloaded new RPG games that people have recommended to me. I've looked at the amount of stats going on, and I've straight away thought, I just don't have the bandwidth right now to deal with all of this stuff. But you know what's weird is, when you look at the old things that you liked, they're probably more complicated, but you learned them. You may have been in a position where you just kept learning, you just kept knowing, you just kept going with them. And sometimes it's nice to return to something comfortable. Sometimes it's nice to go back to what you know. And you know what I see? Here's an experiment that I've done a couple of times. I have met hundreds of people from almost every MMORPG game that's out there. And I have had people say to me, if only people played my game, they would like it. And I've said, okay, are you willing to play someone else's? And the answer is oftenly no. Oftenly. It's often. The answer is often no. They will find one game that they like. They will learn all about it. They will learn the complicated mechanics. They will explain to me, well, actually, it's much deeper than people think. And I will say, okay, it probably is. Are you willing to go and put the same amount of effort and time into somebody else's? Because I guarantee they're telling me the same thing. If you say that your MMO is much deeper and much more focused and much more, rich and much more complex than everyone else's, are you willing to go and play someone else's to find out if that's actually true? And the answer is often no, because they've already put the effort into learning theirs. Sil, this is a great one. As a kid or teenager, you had the bandwidth to jump into something new and complicated and learn it. Now, as an adult, you finish a hard day at work and need a comfortable blanket and something you know. Yes. Learning something new, having a new experience, even if it's fun, takes an amount of mental energy. Josh, are you gathering in the blue zone right now? No, yellow. It takes an amount of mental energy. And people seem to forget that any amount of mental energy is going to eventually run out. And when someone says, hey, it gets good X amount of hours in, hey, you should keep going with this TV show, it gets a good X amount of episodes in, you should keep reading this book, it gets good 3 books into the series. I'm like, listen, what you're asking me to do is invest mental energy that is already remarkably limited into something that I may or may not like. So to loop back to this whole idea, it's the older we get, the less mental energy we tend to want to develop or devote to brand new experiences. You enjoy learning mechanics of a game and then get bored quickly when the game repeats those mechanics, but with bigger numbers. I, as a game design critic, have found myself in some irritating quagmires, which is a situation with no real victory. I say to people that a game should not get good at the end. It should be good at the start. And people say to me, so should the game have all the mechanics you're going to experience at the start? And I say no. It should start with good mechanics, and then it should get more complicated. And there is a balance between starting with good mechanics, which games should do, and then adding more as the game goes on. If a game in the first 10 minutes shows me everything it's got and then just says, hey, do this for the next 12 hours, I'm going to get bored. I sometimes find that with first-person shooters. Within the first 10 minutes, I will fully understand everything the game wants me to do. And then it will be like, do that repeatedly for the next 10 hours. And I'm thinking, right, now I'm bored. I think that it's great when a game says, hey, here's a mechanic. And then you can spend 20 minutes to half an hour engaging with it. And then, hey, here's a new mechanic. Spend some time engaging with that. And then, hey, here's those two mechanics, combined together. And then you engage with that. And then, hey, here's a new mechanic you've not seen yet. Cool, I'll engage with that. And then, hey, here's a way that mechanic stacks with this mechanic. Okay, cool, I'll engage with that. And then another 2 or 3 hours in, you're like, okay, cool, now you've got like 6 or 7 mechanics. Here's a thing that needs all of them. Okay, cool, fantastic. Now I can engage with that. Stacking mechanics is vital. Only a handful of video game companies do this well. I think a good example, personally, is Soul Reaver. I think Soul Reaver is an excellent stacking mechanics game. Soul Reaver, Legacy of Kain, in the first 10 minutes is like, here's everything you can do, go and kill a boss. You're like, all right, cool, done. And then when you kill the boss, it's like, hey, here's a new thing you can do. All right, cool, I'm going to go do the new thing. And then you use that thing to kill a boss. Then you kill a boss, you're like, hey, here's a new thing you can do. I think it's one of the reasons that I like Metroidvanias so much. Metroidvanias are, within the first 10 minutes, here's the stuff you can do. Okay, cool. You're going to achieve something. Here's a new thing you can do. It's why I liked Expedition 33. Expedition 33, as far as pacing goes, was absolutely incredible. People didn't realize this, but in my review of Expedition 33, I explain, I'm not going to spoil this, I explain that every single time you get stronger, so does the enemy. Do I see combat as more of a puzzle than a dance? Both. Absolutely both. You loved every moment of Expedition 33, felt like a kid again while playing it. I cried. I cried halfway through that game. I cried at several points in Expedition 33. I cried at the ending because, god damn, I cried halfway through that game. Not like full-on bawling, but I was sat there playing it with a controller and I had a tear rolling down my face and I thought, what's that tear doing there? And I thought, you know what? I'm 14 again. I'm 14 again and I'm playing absolute peak. And I loved the music. Did anyone else, if they were playing Expedition 33, just stop the boss fights and just start listening to the music? I'm sorry, but if a boss halfway through is going to attack me with a tune as banging as that, we are doing nothing but just listening to your boss song. That's what's happening. As soon as that happens, I'm like, I'll get to killing you in a moment, but right now, let's just enjoy this ambience. God damn. Do you guys want to know why Expedition 33 is so good at pacing? Okay, consider this. Every time Expedition 33 gives the player something that makes them more powerful, it also gives the enemy something that makes them more powerful. And you don't notice this until you start to analyze it. Now, no spoilers, okay? I'll maybe spoil for act like the first half of Act 1. We're not going to talk about anything beyond that. The first skill that you get is, correct me if I'm wrong on this, I believe that you get Gustav as a character, and you start doing the combat, and you do the training fight against Mael. So you've given the player the ability to fight, and you've given the enemy the ability to fight back. All right, that's completely standard so far. We attack, the enemy attack, cool. We're all good. Everything's fine right there. When you get the second member of your party, you have to then fight an enemy, but the enemy now have the ability to do party-wide hits. So you have been given an extra kind of character, but the enemy now have bigger, more damaging attacks. Okay, cool. I get it. You've given me an advantage, but you've also then given the enemies an advantage. When you get your next character, you then are giving the enemy the ability, you are asking the player to then jump. So when your next character joins, you've got more people, you're more powerful, but you now need to jump. So the enemy is now getting more skills as well. Then when you get the next character, you're also now giving the enemy the ability. Go back and play it again. You will realize every single mechanical advantage you get given as a player the enemy get given an equal advantage against you that you need to mitigate using your skills from before, which is incredible. The pacing of that is absolutely stunning. It's so clever. If you want the Wii hype, go and watch Zizaran's stream. I've already got this one linked down. Don't think I have the Wii hype thing. Go and watch his. Destiny 2, incredible music track. I'll give it a listen. Yeah, it's like a Metroidvania. Just came in, which game are you referring to? Expedition 33. Also, every single character you have in that game has a different way of fighting, and that's fantastic. That is fantastic. So what we were looping this back round to is we were looping it round to the idea of video game design needing to become more complicated over time. And video game design is difficult, man. It's difficult. Alan Wake is a good example. Alan Wake is a game that slowly introduces the player to more complex stuff as you go. I think as well, a lot of modern video games add in systems that don't actually enhance the main gameplay loop, but the system has been added in because some executive somewhere demanded it be added in. You guys know what I'm on about when I say that? Have you ever been involved or played a video game and you thought this system's only here because it had to tick a box? I've absolutely experienced that before. And I'm thinking, this is a game that's now just designed by committee. Forced stealth elements in a game, that's one of them. Any modern Tomb Raider game. I dislike the crafting in Tomb Raider games. I don't think Tomb Raider games need crafting. I will argue that for a long time. I do not enjoy needing to craft in a Tomb Raider game. I would rather just be able to raid tombs. As silly as that sounds, I've got a bit of a thing where it irritates me when I know that video games have put something in just so they can put the tag of it having it in. They're overcomplicated systems for no reason, turned off both after 18 minutes of gameplay. There is a difference between depth and complexity. Anyone can make something complicated. That's what I try and explain to people. I've had this conversation with kind of game designers before. Anyone can make a complicated system. Just keep adding things. Very few people can make a deep system. And I believe that depth is often discovered when the things that you have interact with each other. Complexity is easy. Just do lots of stuff. Depth is when the stuff that you have interacts with each other. And everything is a building block for everything else. Systems intertwine within systems. Old school RuneScape's good at doing it. Hell, Albion Online's good at doing it. Everything that you do affects the other things that you do. Factorio is a great example of something being both complicated and deep. But I know that I can't specialize in everything. That, of course, defeats the purpose of, calling yourself a specialist. So whenever I talk to game designers and they ask me what kind of help I can give or what I would consider my speciality, I consider my speciality the process of tutorialization. I want players to be able to engage with and be involved with lots of parts of a game. But the best way to do that is to correctly tutorialize the introduction of the mechanics. And it's difficult to do that. When you introduce a player to a mechanic, you need to show them what it does, show them how it works, let them use it, show them the value of it. And then when they've got it and you want to introduce them to a new system, that's when you say, okay, cool, you've got that now, fantastic. Here's a new thing. Let's see how it works with this as well. Clear Obscure does it fantastically. Let's see how this works with this. Let's see how this works with that. The tutorial is one of the most important parts of the game, because provided that somebody actually opens the game after buying it, 100% of people will play the opening of your game. A decreasing percent of people will play the final mission, which means that you should put, if anything, a disproportionate amount of design time into the opening experience of your game, because that is going to be the bit that most people remember. What do I think the best implementation of integrating new mechanics into the game is fluently? I think that would be Soul Reaver on the PlayStation 1, Legacy of Kain's Soul Reaver. Because every single time you get a new mechanic or you learn a new mechanic, you are then placed into a position where you have to use it. And you are placed into a position where you have to use it, and then afterwards there's a chance where you can use it. I love that. The Witcher 3 also has a very good tutorial area. I know a couple of games that didn't need a tutorial and they had hard systems. In that case, I would say that you knew a couple of games that had excellent hidden tutorials. The best way that you can tutorialize a game is by not having the player realize they're going through a tutorial. What games do you think have complicated systems and no tutorials? Scourge. You might not be wrong. You might say a game and I'm thinking, oh yeah, damn, that game has no tutorial at all. But the best tutorial is a hidden tutorial. Dark Souls has an excellent hidden tutorial. Portal has an excellent tutorial. Portal has a phenomenal tutorialization section. The first third of the game is a tutorial. Dark Souls 1 has an excellent tutorialization area. Jark, why is your voice like that? I'm just British. True, all Portal tells you is walk, jump, click, shoot, K, buy. No, it doesn't. Absolutely not. It tells you a load more than that. You start off in a room that you cannot leave, and when you leave that room, you look through a portal that shows yourself, which means you are immediately explaining to the player through the visual medium that these portals connect to one another. You don't have access to the portal gun for the first couple of rooms. The portals move around, they are already automated by the game. And when you do get access to the portal gun, you could only shoot one portal, which means that you are being taught, hey, you must solve this puzzle without moving that. Then when you've got through that section and you get access to the second portal, you are then shown a very much reduced area that you can shoot the portals onto, using the black walls and the grey walls that can have the portable surface, which means what you're doing is you're slowly increasing the amount of agency and authority that a player has within the game. And only when the player escapes the facility do they actually suddenly get given full agency. And now it's up to you. I would say until you actually leave the facility after GLaDOS tries to kill you, all of that is the tutorialization of how to play Portal. What's my opinion on the Red Dead Redemption 2 tutorial? I haven't played Red Dead Redemption 2 yet. Sorry, man. So to me, good opening sections of games don't feel like tutorials. They feel like a well-designed level of that game. That's all it should be. I mean, a great example is Mario, Super Mario World 1, Level 1. Run forward, get hit by a Goomba, die. Okay. Teaches the player you can't bump into them. Jump over them. Fantastic. Then you find a platform. Then you find some steps going up. Some people call it level 0, the idea of immediately having the tutorial section. Bad tutorial sections either directly tell you exactly what you need to do and then never make you do it again, or put you in an unrealistic scenario where you don't need to do it. I love the idea that when you get given a new skill, you need to use it to leave an area. Soul Reaver does this really well. You kill the first boss, Malkaya, you get the ability to phase through gates, but only while you're in the spirit realm, and the only way to leave that area is to switch to the spirit realm and phase through a gate. When you get the ability to climb, the only way to leave the boss area is to climb. When you get the ability to shoot force projectiles, the only way to knock a stone out of the way to escape the area is to shoot the stone with a force projectile. You are putting the player into a situation where they have to actively use the skill they've just been given. I would consider the tutorial of Portal to be the first half an hour of playing Portal, if you've not played it before. Because what it's doing is it's teaching the player a mechanic by showing them that mechanic. A tutorial doesn't necessarily mean, here are the words on the screen, here is the instruction, here is what you need to do. The tutorial is the experience the player goes through. So, I mean, to respond to that, Red, would I consider the Portal giving you the controls of the game count as the tutorial? That's definitely part of it. The rest of it is just hidden. It is the experience of playing the game. The tutorial is the process of giving the player the information they need. And depending on how well you do that, will depend on how much fun the player has in the early part of the game. Because I don't know if you guys ever go back and play your old favorite games, but sometimes when you say, oh my god, this game's got an amazing opening level, what it means is you, with your skills of already having beaten the game, actually enjoy playing the opening level again, which means that the opening level must reward you for being good at it. It tells you everything you need to know. Oh yeah, Fire Warrior's back on, isn't it? Fire Warrior is on the Warhammer 40k thing now. Might need to pick that up at some point. Age of Conan had a good starting area with Tortage. That was interesting. Have I tried Monster Hunter World? No, not yet. It's on the list. It's a long list of games to play. Was Fire Warrior the Tau game? Yes, it was. I've already got a video on it reviewing it. It was not a good game. It was fun, but it was not good. Am I enjoying Gathering? It's slow. I'm definitely more of a combat player, but I want to be able to give it a fair time. I think the reason that I'm not a massive fan of Gathering like this is in games like RuneScape, you know where you are gathering things from. Like if you want to go mining, you go to where the mine is. If you want to go woodcutting, you go to where the woodcutting area is. You can go fishing, you go where the fishing is. Albion moves stuff around a lot. So I don't know if there is like a mine or if there is a forest that you go and cut in, but things seem to move quite frequently. I sometimes just like grinding.